So, listen, it's we get to a very interesting time in the NBA. Whether you buy teams or not, the teams that are going to be at the best seeded teams are very, very good basketball teams. Most have multiple star players. The Lakers do too. They're just never healthy. So yesterday is a very important game for the Lakers. LeBron chooses not to play. How did that land for you?
I actually, I'm not sure that he should have played on Friday, and he scored 38 points. He's dealing with what I think is actually a pretty significant, a pretty significant ankle injury that he suffered a week ago. And so the fact that he wasn't able to turn around and go on basically one day of rest didn't surprise me. I mean, that is. I think that's a tough ask of him at this stage in his career. I talked to him a little bit on the way out of the building on Friday night, and I asked him how he felt for Sunday. And, I got the sense right then and there that he was going to be out just because of the amount of work it had taken just to get him ready to play that one game. He played 40 minutes against the Pelicans. Does the fact that the Lakers, you called yesterday's game a really important game. I think internally, LeBron James knows, even though they weren't mathematically eliminated on Friday, they were eliminated on Friday. So any thought that Sunday against the Nuggets was this huge game had kind of gone out the window for me because the math was so unfavorable. They were going to need to go 3-2 if the Spurs even won so much as one more game, which they did. Now the Lakers would need to win 3 of their final 4 games. They haven't won consecutive games since January. So one, I think I think he's really hurt, and 2, I don't think the game was as big as maybe people thought it was.
Listen, they're going to have to make some moves, but the NBA is not the NFL. You can't just cut guys. You got to make trades based on, the salaries have to be pretty tight and close. It's hard to rebuild in this league. Also, unlike the NFL draft where you can get immediate high-end starters, you're getting kids out of the college draft. So if you're bad, you need to either hit a home run in the draft or, sometimes just, you need a great front office. I don't think the Lakers are at that point. So I think this will be the 7th losing season in 9 years. I don't see a clear path out of this, Bill, quickly. Give me a suggestion. Now, I've been I would have moved AD 2 years ago. When after the bubble they won, he came out of shape, and I thought, boy, that's a message. That is, maybe this is it. But Clutch Sports, LeBron wanted him. I understand what's going on here. Is there a path to rebuild? I mean, can you come back for the 3rd straight year with AD and LeBron? That's a hard ask for fans.
I think they will. I think LeBron and AD are going to be the centerpiece of this, at least for another year. The Russell Westbrook component is much more interesting. Everything that you can, I don't blame Russ, the player, necessarily for everything that happened this season. I think he's been a little bit of a convenient scapegoat. But at the same time, I do blame Russ, the contract, and the decision to trade for Russ for basically everything that's happened and all the pieces that basically had to fit around him just in terms of contract and in terms of building out a roster once you had 3 players making $120 million. So how do you get out of that? And it becomes a bit of a value question for the Lakers. Do you value cap space in 2023 the most, or do you value turning Russell Westbrook into some role players? And I think that there would be options to trade Russ to teams that are not trying to be good next year that would take that cap space. Indiana maybe you can get Malcolm Brogdon if you attach a draft pick and a couple other players from the Pacers. But that's a contract that does not line up with the LeBron James 2023 cap space that the Lakers cherish. And I think one thing we know about the Lakers is that their value system is give us cap space and we will bring in a superstar. And that worked for them once in 2018 when LeBron James decided to come to the Lakers. But you saw it year and year again at the end of Kobe Bryant's career. Stars didn't want to do that. And it will be very interesting to see if at the end of LeBron's career, if the Lakers do preserve that cap space, if stars are going to want to come play with LeBron at 39, 40, 41 years old.
Frank Vogel, I'm sure he didn't want the Westbrook move. I mean, most basketball people knew it was an odd fit. He needs the ball in his hands, and with LeBron, he's not going to have the ball in his hands. He's not an off-ball player. Vogel, I don't think the solution is coaching. I think he's fine. What do you think his future is?
I don't think it's with the Lakers. I mean, I haven't spoken to anybody within the organization or around the league who thinks that Frank Vogel is going to survive this. Not because anyone thinks that this is necessarily his fault. I mean, he certainly gets some pushback from fans who, quibble with his rotations or the changing starting lineups or his reliance on Avery Bradley. But, I think you have to understand that he is trying to he's trying to patch a sinking ship with bubblegum at this point. I mean, he doesn't have a roster capable of playing up to maybe the standard of the top level talent. And so, he's really trying to, rearrange, things on a daily basis. And I feel for the guy, but you look at the way the Lakers have kind of, I don't want to say treated Frank Vogel, but the way they've kind of valued him or kind of the signals they've given, they've never been about a long-term commitment to him as a head coach. 3-year contract initially, wins the championship. They don't give him an extension after winning a championship in year one. Last summer, they give him an extension and they announced an extension, but it's only a 1-year extension. And so he's under contract through next season. And this is just not going to be a situation where, I just can't foresee a situation where they are going to say, we're going to bring it back with the same coaching staff, because this season has been such a disaster. There's really no one who should not, bear, responsibility. But Rob Pelinka's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like LeBron James isn't going anywhere. So, when you start making moves to signal that you're changing, the coach becomes the easy, position to change.
You're at all these Laker games. I said, the city of Los Angeles, when it comes to NBA, the standard is like dynasties. I mean, it's not even just winning championships. It's dynasties. They've had several. And many of those teams, 2 or 3 of them, are considered the greatest teams of all time, along with, Jordan's Bulls. And I always feel like, I've thought a lot about this year, is LeBron came to L.A. with some boxes. I want to get these young guys out of here, clutch sports, get AD, win a title, and crush business. He won. He got all of them. He doesn't feel as engaged or as much a Laker as the late Kobe Bryant or even Shaq or even Magic. I mean, you're at all these games. How do you think – there's no right answer to this, I guess, Bill, but you have such access. How do you think he's viewed by the Laker diehard fan base, which is such a substantial, long-time fan base in the city?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a deep appreciation that he chose to come to Los Angeles. He brought a title to LA. He rescued the franchise from, really the deepest depths of its history and made them relevant again, made them a contender. And, they've entered 3 straight seasons at, perceived as title contenders. That is not something they had. The last 2 years have been unmitigated disasters. But you're right. I mean, there's not the same, connection between LeBron and the Lakers fan base and the city that there was with, the guys who, who were homegrown, I guess, or, really planted their flag here. I mean, I think there's an understanding that, this is going to be, one of the stops with LeBron. And maybe that kind of speaks to, his entire legacy. It's the same way with Miami. The Cleveland is where, he is deeply ingrained in the history and the culture, and where he is their Kobe Bryant. Right. But, otherwise, LeBron is kind of the first superstar of his stature who has been as transient as he has been.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there is any animosity, but I think the whole LeBron's not Kobe thing has kind of gone by the wayside. I think winning a championship absolved him of that. He will go down as a great Laker. He will have his number retired, one of his 2 numbers retired when the time comes. That's what you get when you're a Lakers superstar and you lead the franchise to a championship. But you talked about dynasties. I think if you're a Lakers fan, there's great disappointment that this LeBron AD pairing, it seems right now, is only going to yield 1 championship. And maybe that's okay for LeBron. Like you said, it kind of feels like mission accomplished for him. But, for the Lakers fan base, you built a team that you thought was going to contend for years to come. And they've really, won. The 3 of his 4 years, they haven't even won a playoff series. And 2 of the years, they're not even going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that is disappointing.
Yeah. It feels like he got more out of the city than the city got out of him. It's not a shot at him. It's just the reality is he kind of used his leverage. He got what he wanted, and the boxes are checked. And now here we go with, LeBron's Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland, L.A. I read a story the other day, like Brian Windhorst, that you give up your draft picks, you win now, he leaves, and it's a mess. The difference is he doesn't want to leave L.A., but it's kind of a mess. So that's where we are now. Bill Oram, The Athletic, covering the Lakers for years. Always a great read. Bill, on late notice, thanks for joining us on a Monday. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me, Colin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.